Good to start.
हरि ओम।
ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। समस्त जनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। ॐ श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरवे नमः। योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचां मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोत् प्रवरं मुनीनां पतञ्जलि प्राञ्जलिना नतोऽस्मि। हरि ओम। We are in the Samadhi Pada of the four padas of Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. In Samadhi Pada, we have seen 14 mantras, and the gist of the 14 mantras, what we have learned is all the variations that we see in this world are deceptive, and the truth is everything that is there in this world has what is called as antakarana. This antakarana, in its primitive state, manifests itself into the lowest of the being, and it keeps on expanding itself and developing itself and develops fully to its fullest potential in Naradeha human beings. So far, the discussion of Yoga Sutra is restricted to the fully developed antakarana of human beings of Naradeha. Based on the antakarana that we have, the world that we experience, Vishwa Anubhava, the world that we experience is divided in two parts, the external world and the internal world. Everyone has what is called as a private world of himself inside, which is everybody is not privy to the information. The world that is outside, the external world, is what we all know because we interact or transact in that world. So all the things that we do outside in the form of transactional world, Vyavaharika Vishwa, is the external part of the world. And based on the interactions we have outside in the external world or the transactional world or the Vyavaharika Vishwa, we get experience out of it, and those experience which are termed in Shastra as samskara, those samskaras are ingrained in our internal world, and they remain in supta avastha, in the hidden, as a hidden treasure inside our mind. So the antakarana, a part of that keeps interacting in the external world, while a major part of it lies submerged inside Antarvishwa and Bahya Vishwa. And we realize that depending upon what we do in the Bahya Vishwa as well as Antarvishwa, the Antakaran gets disturbed, the Chitta Bhumi gets disturbed, the ground on which everything happens called mind gets disturbed because of the changes or the waves that are formed on it called vrittis. These vrittis are the reason for the pain and not so painful situation. klishta, aklishta. We have seen that. If the changes in the chitta are the causes or cause or summum bonum of the cause for the pain and not so painful stimuli, then instead of focusing our attention to mitigate our sorrow in the world, it is better we focus at the root cause where it all happens, and the root cause is antakaran. That is why Patanjali Yoga Sutra deals only and only on mind, with the mind, works only on antakarana, tries to correct the antakarana to achieve sukha dukha virahita avastha, a state where there is neither pain nor happiness. The whole purpose is to do that. And right in the beginning, Patanjali Maharaj says the solution to have this state is to subdue or completely annihilate the changes in the chitta, or completely annihilate the vrittis. And we saw the vrittis are of 5 types. We saw the details of each of these vritti. So in a nutshell, we have an external world to deal with, an internal world to deal with. Mind well, the internal world does not affect us so much unless we stop and switch off the external world. What I mean is, from the time we open our eyes, and if it is not a deep sleep, then in the sleep also, we keep transacting through our senses in the world outside, and that is why every interaction we do in the world outside, we keep on accumulating the experiences. This does not leave any time for us to experience the accumulated experiences again, because majority of the time is focused on the external world. We hardly bother to look towards the internal world. That happens only when we are alone, which we are for a very short time, because we have somehow inculcated a habit in our life that we don't intend to be alone with ourselves because we feel lonely. The saintly people are in solitude with themselves. We are lonely with ourselves. That is why we always try to break the loneliness and again try to interact into the world. So there is a tendency to remain in the external world as much as possible, because the sensual pleasures attract us. Once this is clear to us, it goes without saying that if you have to study the antakarana, which is internal, or the antarvishwa, you have to switch off the bahya vishwa. And to switch off the bahya vishwa, you have to forget whatever is outside. Then only you can come inside and see what has gone wrong with the antakarana inside the antarvishwa. This going inside by jettisoning or by closing this or by switching off the external world is called vairagya. Vairagya has a dual aspect. The first aspect of vairagyam is to close the external world. There are different ways and methods for doing it. It could be shama, it could be dama. But the fact is, you're trying to be away from the transactional world. And how do you go with this vairagyam? Reduce the transactions, because world is nothing but transactions. World is nothing but interactions. Lesser the interaction of the sense organs with the subjects and objects outside, the vairagyam automatically starts developing. That is why Patanjali Maharaj says, since our aim is to completely make the chitta tranquil, peaceful, and aim is to annihilate the vrittis, the effort has to be done basically to stop the external transaction and then go inside and stop the internal transactions. Antar Vishwa and Bahya Vishwa. So, Abhyasa Vairagyabhyam Tan Nirodha. Tan Nirodha, for the vrittis Nirodha, for the annihilation or subduing of the vrittis. Abhyasa and Vairagya, these are 2 and the only two methods according to Patanjali Maharaj, of which Vairagyam is external. Whatever is external to you, when you try to extinguish them, Vairagyam comes into the picture. And it goes without saying that unless outside influences are killed first, you can't go inside. So Vairagyam is a first thing which is to be followed by Abhyasam. Abhyasam is, as a connotation of the word, is taken by us as study and perceived in a little wrong way in our Vyavaharika Vishwa. In Patanjali's mind, in the Shastriya Paribhasha, Abhyasam is prayatna when you are in your Antar Vishwa. So Vairagyam, you have jettisoned everything around you. Now you are only one remaining in this world. Because you have opted for Vairagyam, no other thing is influencing you now. No new influences are coming on your mind or Antakarana. Now you have taken Antakarana as a body to be acted upon. When you are not in the world, you start working on your mind. You cannot work on your mind if you are in the world. So when you stop working in the world, that means when you have Vairagya, when you start working on your mind or Antar Vishwa, Abhyasam has started. Tatra sthitau yatnau abhyasaha. Tatra sthitau. Tatra where? In the Antakarana. Sthitau, to remain there. Yatno, effort, abhyasaha. Abhyasa is an effort to penetrate inside the Antakarana so as to have stability of the Antakarana. In other words, after new influences or the winds that are blowing from different subjects and objects in the world are stopped, you have closed the doors of the house, no new dirt is going to be flown inside by the wind of Vishaya from outside, then you start cleaning your house. This cleaning of the house is cleaning of the mind, it's subduing of the vrittis of the chitta or antakarana, that is called abhyasa. And how do you do that abhyasa? Satu dirgha kalo nairantairya satkara sevito bhumi druda bhumi. This abhyasa has to be done dirgha kala. Dirgha kala means it all depends, sir, upon your capability and capacity. What you have done your past births, how much are you prepared and competent? That would decide dirgha kala. Dirgha kala could be few months for an evolved soul. It could be few births for unevolved soul. But kala it will require. And it is not kala alone, dirgha kala. That means be prepared. Vivekananda Maharaj says, be prepared with patience to get the ultimate result, because that is a result worth waiting for. Dirgha kala, nairantarya. Nairantarya is consistently, perpetually, consistently. Consistency in yoga abhyas is very important. Thinking and attending on Tuesday morning and thinking about vritti nirodha and forgetting it very next moment is not a nairantarya. Nairantarya is called anusandhana. How do we constantly think of multiplying our money? Do we ever leave the thought of making more money? We don't. Why? There is anusandhana of that thought. More money, more wealth, more vaibhav, more yasha, more kirti, more sampatti, more pratishtha. This we want constantly. We are hungry for it. The same hunger is required, but for the prayatnam required for the yoga shastra. Again, yoga is a vichara shastra. So constant anusandhana through the vichara of the antar vishwa is required. So dirgha kala, then nairantarya, satkara sevito with the virya, utsaha, brahmacharya. It has to be enthusiastically performed. It cannot be performed ab kya kare. We are stuck in here. That is all. No, there is no scope for crying in yoga shastra. Crying is in transactional world. Jitna rona hai rolo. Yoga shastra is meant for those who are veera, Veer is Vairya Yukta. Vairya Yukta means enthusiasm. I shall, because it requires enormous amount of determination. One has to be absolutely dedicated. Dirghakala Narendra Satkara Sevito Dirgha Bhumi. Then you establish a ground. After you establish a ground, then the Vairagya also starts moving upwards. And Vairagya starts moving upwards means it starts becoming Tivra Vairagya. So we saw last time what is Vairagya and how it can become Tivra Vairagya. When we talk about Tivra Vairagya, Drushtanushravika Vishaya Vitrushnasya Vashikara Saudnya Vairagyam. Drushta Anushravika, what is seen, what is heard. What is seen means the transactional world. Wherever you use Panchendriyas, all that world. And Anushravika, whatever we have read in Shruti about Swarga, Saptaloka, Saptapatala. So in other words, Laukika, the present one, Paralaukika, which you get after death or which is only mentioned, which we never experience in the current Loka. Both these Lokas, whatever Vishayas you have, if you have Vitrushnasya, desirelessness, not coveting or desiring anything that is there in the present world as well as the world which we have only heard of, is called Vashikara Saudnya Vairagya. Now the question here is, perfect subjugation is Vairagya. Perfect means there is no bouncing back. So that is why a established condition where nothing in the world attracts you or makes your mind toss around is called Vairagyam. And then we saw what is Para Vairagya and Apara Vairagya. Apara Vairagya Lakshanam is Dushtanusravikam. Para Vairagya is totally different. In Apara Vairagya, we saw there are 4 stages of Vairagya. Depending upon the way the mind is prepared. Yata mana Vairagya, you are doing efforts to have Vairagya. Yata is Yatna. Yata mana Vairagya, the mind that is trying to do Vairagyam is called Yata mana Vairagyam. You don't let your mind run after, hanker after the things. You don't covet anything. You try to avoid certain things. So you do all Shamadama Abhyasam in Yata mana Vairagya. After doing this, you come to a stage called Vyatireka Saudnya. Vyatireka Saudnya Vairagyam is a Vairagyam where you have almost completely subdued many things, but there are certain deep samskar, deep impressions. They are very difficult to give up. If you observe yourself, you will observe that some people are extremely connected with the sexual thoughts. Some people are extremely obsessed with food. Some people are extremely obsessed with certain kind of entertainment. These are specific inclination of that individual because of the past samskaras being done repetitively. They get stuck to that. That is why for some people, doing one thing is very easy, but doing certain things are very difficult. Some people would say that I can do anything, but I can't get up early in the morning. Very difficult for me. Why? He has had a samskar of sleeping late. The tamasa has been there for a very long time. So such samskaras which are very badly stuck to us and very difficult to extricate, when you work on that, it is called Vyatireka Saudnya. And when you go to the next stage, after Yatamana and then after Vyatireka, you are able to take control of all the subjects and objects. Now the only thing is, you are not able to stop the thought in the mind. You may not act upon anything. You are doing puja of the Bhagavan and all of a sudden a nude thought comes in your mind. A dirty thought comes in your mind. And you get surprised. Why I'm doing Deva Puja? Why this thought came to my mind? That is because the mind is still generating the thoughts which you don't want. Right at the thought itself, you said, no, I don't want this thought. You don't definitely act on that thought. That is because the mind is still producing vasanatmaka vichar. When you try to control that, it is called ekendriya saudhya vairagya. So yatamana vyatireka ekendriya. Now what happened after ekendriya? Mind is not even thinking of anything. There is no effort required. Even if somebody comes in front of you, nothing happens to you because vairagya has matured now to the next stage. And the last stage is called vashikara saudhya vairagya. Vashikara is complete subjugation. In complete subjugation, the senses are quiet. The world does exist the way it is happening, but as if I have nothing to do with the world. It comes, it goes. The sweetmeats are made, the mithai is taken from here to there, the women are walking from here to there, the money is flowing in front of you, the opportunity of somebody giving you money is there, somebody brings tons of money and puts it at your feet, but you are not disturbed, or you don't even think of any disturbance because the mind and the senses are completely sanyatendriya, complete subjugation. That is called vashikara saudhya. And mind well, it being so difficult, still in Yoga Shastra, this is called apara vairagya. Why apara vairagya? We know Vishwamitra, after years of sadhana, he had already reached a vairagya stage, but in spite of that vairagya, one Menaka coming into the kuti, and her simple coming did not affect anything. She stayed there. And then one evening the rain day was there and she was drenched into the water, and then Vishwamitra saw her, and then the thought came of a lady. What it means is, even from Vashikara Saudhya, there is a chance of Skhalana, falling down. That is why it is called Apara Vairagya. When you cross this and go to Para Vairagya or Para Vairagya, that point of time, you can certify that a person, whatever may happen. Why whatever may happen? You know what happened with Mohini? Vishnu took Mohini Rupa and even the gods got lured into it. That is why gods are inferior to the sages. We always say in Puranas, Indra ke asan dagmaga gaye. Indra was afraid because some sadhu was doing tapasya. Why? He was going beyond Indra. Beyond Indra because he was going from apara vairagya to para vairagya. Now, when do you get this para vairagya? When do you get a state or a seat from where you will never ever come down? There is no chance of anything in the Vishwa that can lure you. That is only when you have what is called Atma Darshana. Atma Darshana. After you see your real nature of the self in you, the same Atman, we are not going to use the word Atman here because now we are in Yoga Shastra, which is nothing else but the echo of Sankhya. Sankhyas do not call Atma, they call Purusha. So whenever we have darshanam of Purusha, which is the ultimate aim of Patanjali Yoga Shastra, the very fact that Patanjali Yoga Shastra is being studied is to have Pratyaksha Darshanam of Purusha. Why? Because once you have Pratyaksha Darshanam of Purusha, nothing in the created as well as uncreated world can be of any consequence to you. Even the word Vairagyam itself also dissolves. And that is called Paravairagya. And that is the reason the 16th mantra deals with that Tat Param Purusha Khyate Guna Vaitrushnam. Tat Param. Tat means compared to the previous Vairagyam, which is Apara Vairagya, which is the 15th mantra. So the 15th mantra Vairagyam is talking about upper Vairagyam, and now Patanjali Maharaj said Tat Param, higher than that, Param is what? Purusha Khyate Guna Vaitrushnam. Purusha Khyati is to know. Khyati. Unfortunately, this word is famous in Marathi and Hindi also as Prasiddhi. But Khyati is to know. Kya, the word is Kya. There are lots of Khyativad. We have seen that Khyativad when we studied Kathopanishad. Anyatha Khyati, Sat Khyati, Asat Khyati, Anirvachaniya Khyati. The Vedanta believes in Anirvachaniya Khyati. Khyati is to know. Purusha Khyate Guna Vaitrushnam. Moment you have a darshanam, anubhuti or intuition of your own self called Purusha, there is Guna Vaitrushnam. Guna, that means all Sattva Rajatama. Guna Vaitrushnam. Vaitrushnam means Trushna is desire, thirst. Vaitrushnam is Vigata Trushna, thirstlessness. So there is no thirst for the gunas. What it means? The gunas are dissolved. What it means? The gunas do not exist. What it means? You transcend the gunas. What it means is Trigunatitaha. Or another word is Nistraigunyo Bhava Arjunaha. Nistraigunya. One to whom none of the gunas impact. Tat Purusham. Tat Param Purusha Khyate Guna Vaitrushnam. One who has done this Vairagyam up to Apara Vairagya, when he meditates further, we are going to come to that, what that meditation is, how this happens. Everything is given in detail by Patanjali Maharaj. 195 sutras, only 195 lines, giving the clue to the life, packed with meaning. Enormous material to think and mananam and mind well. Anushasana, we are not into anything else. We are into practical aspect of darshana. This is the only practical darshana amongst all the darshanas. No theory here, sir. What we are doing right now is a preparation for the things that are going to come further called samadhi. That is why Patanjali Yoga Shastra is a science of action, not science. It is not a theory. It is a science of action. So Tat Param Purusha Khyate, after having the darshanam of the Purusha, there is complete transcendence of the gunas, and that is when you get what is called as Purna Vairagya or Para Vairagya. So the meaning of the sutra is that becomes highest in the realization of Purusha. When there is realization of Purusha, complete desirelessness for the Trigunas is there. And what is Triguna? Triguna is Prakruti. How do we define a Prakruti? How do we define a created world? Whenever there is Guna Samyavastha, when Sattva, Rajatama are in absolute balance with each other, there is no creation of the world. Only when the imbalance starts. You've seen Sthula and Sukshma Vishwa Uppatti in Sankhya Shastra. World is created when Sattva, Rajatamas are in imbalance. Now that this particular yogi has transcended these gunas, means he is no more affected by Sattva, Rajatamas. That means he has gone beyond Prakriti. And what is there beyond Prakriti? Only Purusha. And that is why Sankhya Tattvajnan defines this stage as Kaivalya. What is Kaivalya? Absolute understanding of separation between Prakriti and Purusha is Kaivalya. This is same as what we call moksha in Advaita. Salvation, emancipation. Emancipation in Vedanta is called moksha. In Sankhya and Yoga, it is called Kaivalya. And what is it? Is it attaining a state where Purusha and Prakriti are separate, they are not one, is understood by Anubhuti or intuition. So that is why Tat Param Purusha Khyate Guna Vaitrushnam. Now the question is, There is a possibility in apara vairagya that in spite of whatever you have done, you may fall down. That is why when you come to para vairagya, then purusha darshana abhyasat tat shuddhi praviveka. Shuddhi praviveka means the buddhi that is there, which is transcending the three gunas, that's called shuddhi praviveka. Buddhir gunabhyo vyakta avyakta dharma kebhyo virakta. When we say vairagya, we have a very limited meaning in our mind. Vairagya means I don't want this, I don't want that, I don't want that, because as it is, what do we want? We want everything of senses only. Mind well, the vairagyam is not only for senses. Vairagyam is also for the desire to see God. Because desire to see God is also a desire. Sattva guna is very, very important if you want to elevate yourself in sadhana. But mind well, even that sattva guna also has to be jettisoned. That means in any form, any desire to the extent that I intend to achieve kaivalya also has to be given up. Desire that I intend to experience the mumukshatva or moksha or kaivalya also has to be given up. And that means when the desire is to be given up to the last core, what does it mean? It is only possible when the one who is desiring is no more there. Up to a point, there is a desire to have an experience, anubhuti. And that is the reason why we are doing sadhana. With the help of the buddhi and mana, we are doing sadhana, saying that I am not going to get involved into the external world. I have to inculcate vairagya. I cannot have this. Please do not come closer. I have to be having anusandhana. So many things we do, but every time we do a thing, we have in our mind that I am doing the thing. I am doing worship of God with full heart. But I know I am doing because I am a bhakta. I am a bhakta means I am away from God. The para vairagya that we are talking is a vairagyam where worship remains, but I am worshipping doesn't remain. So the last bastion called I is transcended. That is the time the three gunas are also transcended. So ahankara vilaya and triguna vilaya, they are simultaneous. Eka samayavachede. If that happens, then what happens? Worship remains, worshipper doesn't remain, worshipped doesn't remain. Upasya devata, upasak, both are gone. Only upasana remains. But upasana remains in what form? In a form which has no attributes, not even anandam. So if you ask a Jivan Mukta, sir, are you happy? He would say, what do you mean by that? I am what I am. No, but sir, it must be a very happy state. No, he said, no, I don't understand you. Happiness and not happy, that's your problem. That's in your area, in your arena that is possible. Where I stay, Dvandvatitam. Then, sir, exactly what do you feel? Again, he would say, again, you use the word feel. I don't feel. How can you have such a state where there is no feeling, there is nothing? Oh, it must be so boring. Again, he would say, what is boring? I don't understand. You must have seen that it is difficult to describe that stage for a very simple reason that there is nothing in the created world as well as uncreated world. Vyakta and Avyakta Vishwa has nothing parallel to that state. A child who is barely 2 years old asks a father that, Father, I heard that there is something called circulatory system in the body. Then the father says, yes, it is like this. And then the child says, no, I don't think so. Because There is nothing in his world that can be compared to what the Father is talking. So ultimately, he has to say, you will come to know when you grow. That is what precisely the Jivan Mukta also says, that you come to my stage, you will realize it. इश्क का ज़र्फ आज़मा तो जरा, तू नजर से नजर मिला तो जरा, दिल को तस्की ना होगी तो मैं जामिन, तू मैकदे में आ तो जरा. A drunkard is saying, and drunkard here is masta, which is intoxicated by God, is saying that if you want the same intoxication, come to the pub. Till then you will not understand, howsoever I may describe. That is why the entire Shruti Veda, nobody is able to describe. Neti neti. Not this is the only way. Vyatirekatmaka arth, yes. Is it, sir, something like eating an ice cream forever? No, it is not. That much the Jivan Mukta can say. Then what is it that he cannot say? The positive connotation cannot be given because it is a thing to be experienced. So that is why that state is called Jnana, Sat, Chit, Ananda in Vedanta, Kaivalya in Yoga or Sankhya. These are names given to indicate the position because it cannot be described. That is why Sutra Siddhanta says, Prathama Vishaya Vairagyam, Tadanantara Guna Vairagyam. In Bhojaraja's Raja Martanda Vritti, a Vrittika which is written on Patanjali Yoga Sutra, he says, Apara Vairagya Laukika Para Laukika Vishay Vitrushnat, Para Vairagya iti Jnana Vishaya api Sattva Guna api eva Vairagya. Nothing. There is, the desire itself is gone. There is no desirelessness. Desirelessness means right now the desire is not there. No, desire as a concept is gone. Ichha Shakti. What is Ichha Shakti and Ichha? Ichha Shakti is ability to desire, and Ichha is expressed power of desire. We have Ichha Shakti. No, we have Ichha. Bhagavan, the realized soul has Ichha Shakti. If required, he can desire. But the problem is, his desire is not coming from the standpoint of I. That is why we are not still able to explain how the world is created. It is said that it is Ishwar Sankalpa with which the world is created. If it is Ishwar Sankalpa, then was it a desire of the God to create the universe? No, sir. It is not the way you call desire, because ours is Ichha, his is Ichha Shakti. Ichha Shakti means there is no specific reason for desiring. So no prayojanam. God has no prayojan. If we try finding out why God has created the world, you will never get an answer. Why? Because that particular desire that he had was not from the standpoint of I, as well as no prayojanam. Then sankalpa. Ekoham bahusyami. I am one, I want to be many. This is what happened. That much only we know. But why? If you wouldn't have created the world, there was no Patanjali Yoga Sutra to study. How easy and how simple. But that is something which our buddhi cannot understand for a very simple reason, because we cannot even imagine desire without a person desiring it. Person is a limited adjunct, upadhikruta. Ishwar is not upadhikruta. Brahma has no upadhi. Brahma is one, ekameva dvitiya. So sankalpam happening at that stage is sankalpam. You cannot say as desire of somebody. There is no of. And that is why Ichha Shakti. Is he not doing the karma of creating the planets, creating, this is all karma? No, it is Karya Shakti. That is why karma of Bhagavan is called Divya Karma. Divya Karma because it is divine plan. Ichha Shakti, Karya Shakti, and everything is filled with knowledge. You are able to know, to know. In our case, to know means there has to be a person who knows, and there has to be an object about which you know. That is called Jnana. Ishwara has Jnana Shakti. Jnana Shakti means pure knowledge. That is how Sat Chit Ananda or Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Karya Shakti. All these are words to describe their particular stage. That is why Tasmat Etasehi Nantariyakam Vinabhavi Kaivalyam Iti. This is what Vachaspati Mishra also says on this particular mantra. Now comes the 17th mantra, and this is where Patanjali Maharaj is presuming that we all have understood 16 mantras. Henceforth, we will be getting into some deeper aspect of Yoga Shastra. Why? Because we are tackling the ultimate stage of Samadhi. Before that, we must know that the whole aim of Yoga Shastra is to focus on mind or Antakaran. The whole purpose of entire exercise is to subdue or annihilate or subjugate the vrittis. To subjugate the vrittis, two things are required, abhyas and vairagya. We saw what different types of vairagyas are there, and vairagya is shutting out all external influences that could affect the antakarana, and abhyasa is working on the antarvishwa, on the antakarana, to extricate whatever is below the surface. The subconscious mind carrying all the latent impressions which are so far not being catered to start propping up once you stop the outside game. Why do you think dhyana is very difficult? Because in dhyana, you get all that is submerged inside, it starts coming out. In fact, we are so busy in the external world, it never comes out. But a person, a sadhaka, who decides by Gurudeva's grace or by his previous karmas, when he decides to sit into dhyanam, because now he is less interested in the world outside, then moment he sits, one by one, the samskaras start coming up. And then he realizes, what I am seeing outside is not even 1/10 of what I am seeing inside. This antarvishwa, when it starts coming out in the form of smriti, then it again does the same or rather more kind of disturbance than the external world. At least in external world, you are busy in doing one thing. We are in vikshipta avastha. Accounting chal raha hai. Software logic likh raha hu. This is called vikshipta avastha. At least one thing is going. When everything outside is stopped and we try to contemplate or do dhyanam, all the submerged vasanas are nothing but repetitive samskaras. They start coming out and they disturbed us a lot. That is why we are trying to remember Vishnu or Shaligram or whatever Pratika or some Maharaj in our mind, while the mind is absolutely moving at a supersonic speed, goes to America, comes back, thinks of wife, thinks of my marriage, that time this happened, that happened, this. These are all latent impressions coming out. And these latent impressions, because they have been given a scope now to come out, because when you have closed the outer door, the inner door opens. And that is why the abhyasam, tatra sthito yatno abhyasaha, satu dirgha kala nairantara satkare sevito bhumi, Buddhist too are nothing else but study. That is called abhyasa. Abhyasa is not reading a book on Patanjali Yoga Shastra. In colloquial language, it is study, abhyasa. Abhyasa is subduing your internal samskaras of your mind through contemplation. That is abhyasa, which is to be done nirantar. Once somebody has done this vairagyam and has started doing abhyasa, then he proceeds to the next stage, provided he succeeds in this both. The 17th mantra comes, which says vitarka vichara ananda asmita anugama sampradnyataha. In fact, the whole sutra is only one word. Vitarka vichara nanda smitanugama sampradnyataha. If you do the vigraha stands like this. Vitarka vichara ananda asmita anugama sampradnyataha. Now this mantra takes us to a little deeper level. Now what is happening is the external world is over now. Now we are talking about only antakarana and what happens to the person who is dedicatedly doing the abhyasam. He goes through 4 stages. internal journey has started. The internal journey in dhyana goes through 4 stages according to Patanjali Maharaj. Mind well, the first controversy arises right in the mantra itself, because Patanjali Maharaj has ended this mantra as Vitarka Vichara Ananda Asmita Anugama Sampradnyataha. He doesn't call Sampradnyata Samadhi. And we have always heard the word Sampradnyata Samadhi, Asampradnyata Samadhi. So is it a Samadhi or not? That is the first and the basic controversy. There are some who say it is not a Samadhi. There are some who say this is a preparation for the Samadhi. And Patanjali Maharaj himself has not used the word Samadhi here. And in fact, there is no word called Asampradnyat in Patanjali Yoga Sutra at all. Then from where the word Asampradnyat came? Asampradnyat was used by nobody else but Vyasa Bhashyam. The Bhashyakar used this word. And how did he use the word? That which is not Sampradnyat is called Asampradnyat, is what he said. Now, before getting into the controversy, let us understand the meaning of the mantra. To be kept in mind, as we go deeper and deeper, we should not forget what is behind. We have seen in just what all we have done so far. Now we are in the contemplative mood. You are set for contemplation, and these are the stages you will go through. First will be called Vitarka. Now the Vitarka word itself has created enough controversy. We know Vitarka, we know Tarka, we know Vitarka, we know Kutarka. Tarka is reasoning or logic. Nyaya Shastra is called Tarka Shastra. Why Tarka? Reasoning. You reason it out. Anumana is based on reason. That is what is also called sometimes Anumana Shastra, reasoning. Vitarka is a specific or a specialized argumentation. So Vitarka can be translated as a reasoning, specialized argumentation, or cogitation. Cogitation is another word, which is again a specialized argumentation. Also, Vitarka also means something without reasoning or rationality, which is evil thinking. Vitarka. Now, which meaning to take? Vitarka has 2 meanings. One is reasoning, specialized argumentation, cogitation, or without reasoning or without rationality. So this is the meaning of Vitarka. There are 2 meanings. Let us keep this in mind. Vichar is deliberation or reflection. Vichar is deliberation or reflection. Ananda is joy or bliss. We know that. Asmita is I-ness. What is I-ness? I-ness is the feeling that we were just talking in Vairagyam, that everywhere we have a feeling that I am not interested in anything. I am now into Vasana. I don't want anything to become close to me. I don't want I to get attracted to the subjects. I am preparing to worship the God. I want to contemplate upon God. I want to see the darshanam of God. I want to see God. I comes everywhere. This I-ness. And it's not only by saying, it is ingrained in us. That is why whenever we say, oh, kal dhyan bahut acha tha. Yesterday I contemplated very well. The contemplation was very good. I had an experience of some sweet smell, a good fragrance, a good sound came to my ear. I was so happy in my dhanam yesterday. Every experience that you have in the dhanam is associated with the word I. That I is called asmita. The word has come from asmi. Aham asmi. I am. I am is translated in Sanskrit as aham asmi. That asmi is asmita. Isness or amness. A-M-N-E-S-S. Or I amness is called asmita. Now, one who goes through these 4 stages of Vitarka, Vichara, Ananda, and Asmita, he becomes Sampradnyat. What is Sampradnyat? Sampradnyat is known in its totality. Sam is Samyak, Pradnya. Pradnya is to know. The one who goes through these four stages, Vitarka, Vichara, Ananda, Asmita, then following this Anugama, one who follows in this manner, one who is accompanied in this way, he gets what? He becomes knower of totality. Totality means what? Whatever is there, whatever is countable. Sankhya Shastra is called Sankhya, no? The word Sankhya is whatever is countable means countability is only when there is no uniqueness. Other than Atman, whatever is there, that means everything in the Prakriti becomes known. Nothing remains to be known. That is called Sampradnyatata. So the meaning of this mantra, two meanings come out. Sampradnyat Samadhi is composed of four stages which are accompanied by reasoning, deliberation, bliss, and sense of pure I amness. This is one meaning that comes out. And another meaning is Sampradnyat Samadhi or Sampradnyata is composed of four stages: association of evil thinking, good thinking, bliss, and I amness. So the most controversial word here is Vitarka. So now we have four words to study: Vitarka, Vichara, Ananda, and Asmita. And the fifth word that we need to study is Sampradnyata or Sampradnyat. Sampurnataya, prakarshena, Jnat, that which is known in all details is called Jnat. We never know, we as a person, as a human beings, the way we work, we are never knowledgeable to the complete depth of any object or a subject or a transaction. Knowing everything about a thing is called Jnatata, Jnana. Jnan is a totality. So, Sampradnyat means Sampurnataya, Prakarshena, Jnatva. That which is completely known in its all details. Now the controversy comes. Those four words we are going to see in detail. We are going very slow in detail because they are very important as far as practical sadhana is concerned, because these are not four words. We shall be going through these four stages, if at all we contemplate to this extent. So we must know theoretically at least, not by experience because we are not reached there, but theoretically at least we must know what these stages are. So those four words will be taken definitely in detail. But first let us deal with one thing, whether Sampradnyat is Samadhi or not. The controversy has come simply because Patanjali Maharaj has not used the word Samadhi. So can we call it Sampradnyat Samadhi? That is first question. Second thing is, Patanjali Maharaj himself has used later on, we are going to come to that, the word called Sabija Samadhi, Nirbija Samadhi, and Dharma Megha Samadhi. So if he has already classified three Samadhis there, that means this may not be the Samadhi. Otherwise, he could have used the word here. That is second reason why it is called as, not called as Samadhi, according to some. Another thing is, some people say that, look, if Patanjali has not called it Samadhi, then this can be called as Yoga Pradesha. What is Yoga Pradesha? When you leave this world in contemplation, in Dhyanam, when you forget this world and you start your internal journey by repetitive abhyasam, you come across certain stages before you reach the final stage. So that travel, that journey, which is in that Antar Vishwa, is called Yoga Bhumi, where you get these four experiences, but they are not Samadhi. So this is called Antaranga Yoga. According to some, it is called Antaranga Yoga. What they say is, this journey is also called as Antar Akash. Antar Akash, whose Antar Akash? My Antar Akash. Now, in this Antar Akash, I have four stages which are described here, which is Vitarka, Vichara, Ananda, Asmita. These four stages we go through. And after Antar Akash, you enter into a journey called Chidakash. I hope I'm not making it more complicated. We are going to see again in detail. What we are talking about is the one who has completed Vairagyam and started Abhyasam through Dhyana. And the stage of Dhyana, he goes through 4 stages, which are again these 4 stages. Whether these 4 stages, each of them can be called Samadhi, because he's anyway in all these 4 stages, you forget the external world. But mere forgetting the external world is Samadhi or not? And if it is Samadhi, then why Patanjali Maharaj himself did not use the word Samadhi? So that is why, according to some, this is not Samadhi, but these are 4 stages. In each stage, you get a particular experience. The person who is experiencing is aware of the experience, and that is why stage up to Sampradnyat has been described by people who have experienced it, because they were there in that experience. Now the question comes, a person like Gurudeva, if he is asked about the 4 stages, he can give authentic statement why he has gone through it and he was witness to it. The problem is, after these 4 stages, nothing has been described, because there is no experiencer available in the next stage, which is Chidakasha stage. Antarakasha, comprising of these 4 stages, experience being there, experiencer is there, so they are describable and they are described. In fact, these 4 stages that we are talking and which we are going to see in detail, these 4 stages are the stages where the yogi gets the control of entire universe in his hand. That is one of the reasons why he is able to use the Prakriti or the Maya the way he wants. He wants to be at 10 different places, he can be at 10 different places. He wants to take a stone in the hand and make it gold, he can make it gold. He wants to crush the gold, the stone and make the water out of it, he can. Why? Entire universe is now under his command. And this command of this universe is through these 4 stages, which are called siddhis. All the Ashtada siddhis happen in these 4 stages. And mind well, right here, the temptation of sticking to the siddhis needs to be avoided. That is why Patanjali Maharaj describes this in Vibhuti Pada, the 3rd pada which we are going to see. In Vibhuti Pada, he describes all these siddhis. We are going to see all the siddhis in absolute details, no doubt about it, because that's the part of the Yoga Sutra. But all these siddhis are of no use, because a further journey called Chidakasha Pravas is more important. That is why these 4, according to some, are not Samadhi. They are part of the Yoga Pradesha, and that is why we have to study it as incidental happening during the journey of a soul, of a sadhaka, in his dhyanam to reach a sampradnyat or the Samadhi avastha. This is according to some people. Another reason why it says so is, this mantra says that the mantra is about Sampradnyata Samadhi. In this mantra, what Patanjali Maharaj is talking about is these 4 stages and Sampradnyat, he says. And in the next mantra, he says Anya. That means he's saying these 4 are Sampradnyat. Anya means other than that. And then he's talking about the next stage, to which he has not given the name Asampradnyat, because he has not used that word. So because of all this, one school of thought thinks that these are 4 stages of Yoga Chitta Bhumi and not Samadhi. This is one school of thought. However, now the most important part, people of Vivekananda's stature, the one who went through all these 4 stages while delivering the lectures of Raja Yoga in New York, has mentioned these 4 stages as Samadhi. And he has not only mentioned it as Samadhi, here is one who has experienced those 4 stages, is speaking about it. In London, when he delivered the lectures on Raja Yoga, and when he was describing these avasthas, While describing the avasthas, he used to go in that avastha. That is why if you read Londoner Swami Vivekananda, the book by his own brother, or my master, the book of Bhagini Nivedita, the lectures delivered by Swamiji on Raja Yoga in London, people also did experience a tranquil atmosphere because Swamiji himself used to go in Samadhi while describing the avastha. So in other words, we have somebody from whose mouth actual experiences have been translated with the superb intellect. And that is why these four avasthas we are going to see in detail from Swami Vivekananda's standpoint of view, because that is an experienced person's standpoint of view. Does it mean what I described earlier was not from an experienced standpoint of view? There are some who are trying to make the language meaning out of it, and there are some who are trying to give weightage of experience behind it. Weightage of experience is always higher and bigger. So Vaiyakarni or Vyakarankar, the way he looks at the sutra, could be right in his own respect. However, the person who has experience is to be more relied upon because they are almost of the Sadguru level. And that is why the one part or the one school of thought I discussed about these four. In the next session, we will see the details of these four words according to Swami Vivekananda, and we will also see what happens during these four stages. And mind well, these four stages in which you get the complete control and authority of the entire created universe are still considered to be an inferior stage of a higher samadhi than this, which is going to come later on. But it has to be kept in mind that we started from chitta, then started with vritti, then started with abhyasa and vairagya. First vairagya, then come inside for abhyasa, start working on the mind, try to make the chitta stabilized. Moment you start doing this abhyasam, the chitta passes through four stages in the chitta bhumi, where the person who is contemplating is completely aware of what is happening, and that is called as samprajnatata. Having totality, the knowledge of whatever is existing around, going through four stages of vitarka, vichara, ananda, asmita. We shall see the details of it in the next session. Hari Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Oh, Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Hari Om. Hari Om.
Dilip ji, you have a question?
Yes. Hari Om Sanjay ji.
Hari Om.
The subject is getting deeper and deeper into and getting difficulties in digesting. Now I have a couple of questions, but one thing is wanted to clear is that you were mentioning about the Vajnana, Agendriya Vajnana, Vashigara Sanjna, Aparavairagya, Paravairagya, Atmadarshan, and Purna Vairagya. This development is stage by stage, or you can straight away jump into Purna Vairagya?
Hari Om. The Apara Vairagya goes through stages, while Para Vairagya is simultaneous development. That is why Para Vairagyam itself is Jnanam. Jnanam and Para Vairagyam, these are two sides of the same coin. In case of Apara Vairagya, it goes through stages. For example, the Yatamana Vairagya, or Yatamana Vashikara Saudhnya, as it is called in Yoga Shastra, where we start getting less interest or showing disinterestedness in certain things around us. So we say that I'm not interested in car, I'm not interested in, I'm fine with whatever is given to me. Jaisi sthiti ahe, taisha pari rahe, whatever is given to you, be happy in that. This is the beginning of Vairagyam. And we feel that now, I have almost reached a stage, I don't need anything. I'm sorry, sir, you are just in the beginning of Vairagyam. So these stages are there when you have started the study of Vairagyam on your own at upper Vairagya level. As we move forward, the intention is to stop the vrittis and to create the vrittis unless the Vairagya has completely burnt the desires. That is when you sit into the dhyanam, nothing comes to your mind. That means no vritti is generated. That is called, because when there is no vritti, purna dhanam, absolutely no crops coming up into the chitta bhumi, such a chitta, when it is contemplated and directed through abhyasa, it moves through these 4 stages that we described and reaches the ultimate destination where the darshanam of Purusha happens. Once that darshanam happens, then there is no chance of you again falling back into the Vairagya. So that is why para Vairagya and Jnanam, they are simultaneous things, while upper Vairagya is a stage-wise process.
So jnana means mandatory.
Jnanam is something, it's not only mandatory. Jnanam is an outcome of whatever we are doing. You don't have to desire for it. It comes to you. For example, you eat a mango and then you cannot say, oh, mango is different than the taste that I'm enjoying. No, the enjoyment, the taste is associated with you. Just do an act of eating the mango. The anandam will come automatically to you of eating the mango. Similarly, you try and study to do the Vairagyam to the highest extent, Jnanam automatically dawns upon you. That is why Jnanam dawns. It doesn't come. It is not praptavyam. It is jnatavyam. It just happens. Hari.
One more small question. This Trigunatmaka is mentioned about here, and what is in Bhagavad Gita we have studied about the Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga. Is that got any relationship or?
Absolutely, absolutely. Gunatraya Vibhaga, Bhagavad Gita is trying to point out how Trigunas are making the people. For example, most of the Hindu Vedantic system tries to classify people into broad categories. They are not interested in calling anybody American or Russian. They don't call Brahmin and Shudra. These are all stupidities created by our own people. For the sake of society, the Chaturvarna, etc., that's fine. That is for the smooth functioning of society. But from a sadhaka point of view, a person is either into one of these 3 gunas. And that is why how these 3 gunas work is Gunatraya Vibhaga tells us that.
Yes.
The reason why Lord is telling it to Arjuna is because he says, no, that you are either in one of the 3 gunas, of which completely stop and throw away tamoguna. Use rajoguna to the minimum for your swadharma or the duty and inculcate sattva guna in you, so that the sattva guna is the last ladder which you will climb so that you can reach the top destination. So sattva guna vruddhi is the functioning that we will be doing as a ladder, and once you reach there, then throw the ladder away because you have already reached the place where you want to reach. That is called throwing even the sattva guna. Now when you throw sattva guna, it is presumed that raja and tama is already thrown. That is called transcending the 3 gunas. That is what we said, para vairagya purusha chate guna vaitrushnata. This is precisely what that is. Hari Om.
Hari Om.